In this video, I want to talk about how to find the x-intercepts and the vertex of a parabola. So let's think back. The x-intercept is where y equals 0. So if we let y equal 0, we want to figure out the x-intercepts of a parabola. Okay, so once we get to here, we actually have two options. One option is to use the quadratic formula, which is x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So that's one option to figure out the x-intercepts. That's exactly what the quadratic formula is intended to do. It finds the x-intercepts. The other option is to factor. And if depending on how much you like the quadratic formula and how much you like to factor, you may choose one over the other. In this case, I actually want to choose factoring. And the first thing that I want to do before I factor is I want to get rid of this negative a half. So I'm going to multiply both sides by negative 2. And I think that's going to make it easy to factor. So I still have 0 equals x squared plus 2x minus 8. Okay, so now I want to factor this. So I'm going to do the opposite of FOIL, and this should be an x and an x. I want these two numbers to multiply to be negative 8, and I want them to add to be 2. So positive 4 and negative 2 should do that. So when we add them, they're positive 2, and when we multiply, they're negative 8. So that should work. Now if I set each of these equal to 0 independently, I should get x equals negative 4 and x equals 2. These are my x-intercepts. So these are my x-intercepts. And that means that those are the places where the graph crosses the x-axis. So I can go ahead and graph those, negative 4 and 2. Okay, now before we find the vertex, I want to just do a little bit of, I just want to graph the parabola and see if we can find the vertex, and then we'll talk about how we find it in general. Let's go ahead, I'm going to erase this part just to give myself a little more space. And then I'm going to make a chart. So since I know that the graph crosses right here and here, I kind of know that the graph is I'm going to be able to see my graph best between these 2 points. So I'm just going to go ahead and use these points in between. So I'm going to use negative 3, negative 2, negative 1, 0, and 1. And I want to graph those x values and see what the y values are. So I'm plugging into this original equation. So if I plug in negative 3, I'm going to get negative 1/2 times negative 3 squared minus negative 3 plus 4. So this is going to be negative 1/2 times 9 is negative 4.5. I'll move to decimals, plus 3 plus 4. So this should give me 2.5. Okay, and then when I put in negative 2, I'm going to have 1/2 times 4, which is negative 1/2 times 4, which is negative 2. Here gives me positive 2, so that's just 0 plus 4. So this should be 4. And then if I plug in negative 1, this should be negative 1/2 plus 1 plus 4. So that should be 4.5. If I plug in 0, I should get 4, because these are both going to be 0. And then if I plug in 1, I should get 1 times negative 1/2 is negative 1/2 minus 1, so that's negative 1.5 plus 4, so that should be 2.5. Okay, So let's go ahead and graph these. So negative 3 is 2.5. Negative 2 is 4. Negative 1 is 4.5. 0 is 4. And 1 is 2.5. So this is a downward facing parabola, which we knew because this is negative, right? So, and it looks something like, oh, that was really bad. Okay, let me try that one more time. All right, let me try one more time. Okay, so it's a downward facing parabola that looks something like this. Now, can we locate the vertex? Well, we know that the vertex is, in a downward facing parabola, the vertex is the highest point, right? So the vertex is this point right here, right? That's the highest point, and it's the same on both sides. So another way of finding the vertex is to look for the point that's right in the middle of the two x-intercepts. So right in between the two x-intercepts is going to be the vertex. So you can actually take the average of the two x-intercepts. So we could do negative 4 plus 2 over 2. That is one way to find the x-coordinate of the vertex. So this would be negative 2 over 2, which is just negative 1. So the x-coordinate of the vertex is the average. It's right in between the two x-intercepts. It's also negative b over 2a, which is another way of calculating what's right in between the two x-intercepts. So if this formula gives us the two x-intercepts, it's all the same, right? Except one of them is plus this and the other one is minus this. So negative b over 2a is this point right here. And then the plus b squared minus 4ac is over here. Minus b squared minus 4ac is over here. Or the square root of b squared minus 4ac. So the vertex is right in between the x-intercepts. You can find it in a bunch of different ways. One of them is using negative b over 2a. Another one is by taking the average of the x-intercepts. That gives us the vertex. And then, of course, to find the y value of the vertex, we just need to plug it in. So in this case, the x-intercepts are negative 4 and positive 2, and the vertex is negative 1 is the x value, and 4.5, right, is the y value. And that's how we find the x-intercepts and the vertex of a parabola.